I know how to work on these guns. I know exactly what you're saying because I get a message on Discord like, how do I do this? Or this gun is doing this. There's a handful of guys that are way better. Like they can give a very specific answer right away. And I'd have to look it up. Okay, I don't even know.
Yeah, I broke open a gearbox one time and it's still in a bag. Okay? Where are we going with it? Are we going to double down and press forward, or do I need to just get back to the hobby of like having fun with my friends? And I was like,
yeah,
your podcast is perfect because I'm not here to promote anything other than just a conversation about our hobby. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that always comes up in the conversation because I always ask somebody, especially yourself in a position where you're at, like, do you have an event? Do you have something you want to promote?
Yeah, no, we can plug it quickly. Yeah, we can plug it. I don't want to spend tons of time, but I rented a battleship to have an airsoft festival on for Memorial Day weekend.
Bro, what?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. Hold that thought because that's definitely going to be.
Okay.
That is cool. That is cool. Yeah, that's actually going to be the soundbite, bro, for the intro. Okay.
And our charity game is Terminator-themed, and that's coming up. So.
Okay. Cool. We'll definitely go over that stuff. Oh my gosh, yeah, man. Welcome, bro. Let me shout out my sponsors real quick. We got Skirmish, mesh system for Airsoft, the Airsoft Connected. If you guys, I've been promoting this thing since I found out about it like a year and a half ago from Callsign Honey Badger. Shout out to you for letting me know about that. And then Brandon and I, who run Skirmish, we've been talking since I've been telling everybody about this thing since the beginning. If you want to find out more, go to skirmish.net. And if your field doesn't have it, if you want to try it out, hit up your field owner and or your event coordinator and see if they can look into it. Also, Jackal Tactical is a new sponsor of the podcast. They're up in PA, run by Paul. That episode actually just came out a few days ago, 307, I believe. And it's really interesting. He's got 2 storefronts and a field and Other World Milsim is an event host or production company, I guess, is what he's doing. So he's got a few events coming out. Actually, one's in GTI in September that I'm going to go to and meet some of those guys. So Skirmish, Jackal Tactical, thank you for sponsoring this podcast. And VFA owner, operator, and military veteran is on with me today. Freddie Lux, I appreciate you being on, man.
As I take out my
yeah, knock your mic off the table, man. It's cool.
I got so excited. Hey, what's going on? Hey,
right?
Having me out.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's great catching up with you again. We haven't talked since a while. It's been probably a year or so.
Yeah,
it's been quite a while.
Yeah, we hung out last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. So you got a lot of stuff going on, man. You got you started VFA, but I don't know if we ever went into some of your background. Like, you want to give a quick history of yourself and how you grew up? Why the hell did you go in the military, like me? And and then how did you get into airsoft?
So I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, Elmhurst. I went to elementary school, middle school, high school, all there in Elmhurst. I joined the Navy my senior year. Was it my junior year? It was November of 2002, and I was on the delayed entry program.
Yeah, the DEP. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I played baseball growing up. I skateboarded, rode bikes, jumped off the porch over and over, built forts out of ice pieces during snowstorms, super active. And then high school, kind of, you're just like, who am I?
Yeah.
So the Navy, well, my mom kind of was like, hey, what are you going to do? And I was like, I'll just go to community college. Like, I wanted to play baseball at LSU, but I stopped playing baseball.
What position were you playing?
So I was a catcher. I played third base outfield, but I was primarily behind the plate.
That's a tough position, bro.
Yeah. You know what? Growing up, my mom always told me I had bad knees. And it was like, no, I just have really tight joints because my muscles are overworked. Like, give me a foam roller. So sports has changed since I was a kid.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, I was a catcher and, all-star. I was that kid that was just, I loved baseball. I was on a traveling league. And then, came into high school and hit puberty and had some trouble like a lot of kids. And then I finished high school and went straight into the Navy. My mom was like, hey, somebody's on the phone for you. And it was STS-2 Donovan, sonar tech, second class, Petty Officer Donovan. Hey, this is your local Navy recruiter. Why don't you come on down to the office? And so I called my mom's bluff and I was like, yeah, I'll be there in 20 minutes. And so I got in my car and I drove over to the recruiter's office and he's like, what are you doing here? And I told him, I was like, well, I was calling my mom's bluff. So he piss tested me, he ASVAB tested me, went through conversation. And then of course I did the Navy SEALs looked really cool.
Right.
And, and then he said, go next door for me, will you? And next door was the Marine Corps recruiting office. They shared the same building, but it was split.
Right.
And so I went over there and I talked to the gunnery sergeant. And this is 2002, November 2002, mind you. And he looked at me like straight in the face and was like, "We're at war, son. Like, are you ready to kill somebody?" And like that question kind of was like, well, who are you as a person? Are you, what are you looking to do? Are you naive and you're just going to jump into the hot seat because you were going to get some? Yeah. And so like I ended up going back next door and SWIC really interested me. The programs, the athletic aspect of it always interests me. And so I was like, okay, so how do I get on one of those ships where you just hit the button and like the guns go boom and the missiles go boom? And they're like, yeah, so you want to be like a gunner's mate or a torpedo man? And I was like, in my head, I'm like, damn the torpedoes, right? And so that was actually why I chose to be a torpedo man.
That's wild.
Yeah. So I ended up becoming a gunner's mate anyways, due to what the Navy does. But I was a torpedo man. So trained. I went to Great Lakes. I also went to A school there at the Navy Gunnery School in Great Lakes, which was 45 minutes north of my house. So it was nice. Yeah, it was really that was weird. Being in boot camp in a totally different setting, never been away from home, only traveled outside of Chicago one time to go to Disney World. And so they're like, yeah, you're going to boot camp. And I was like, well, where's boot camp at? Thinking like Coronado, like, and they're like Great Lakes. And I was like the Midwest. And they're like, yeah, like Great Lakes, Illinois. And I'm like, I like looked at him and I was like, there's a Navy base here? Like, what are we talking? And it's not even on, it's not really on, I guess it's on the lake, but there's no port or anything. So it's like, there. But yes, school was there. My girlfriend was there. My family was there. Once I got out of boot camp, and I did school, it was during holidays. So my first holidays in the military were very nice. Never to be repeated ever again after that.
Exactly. My first holidays in the military were in boot camp. I went in October 11th, and I graduated at Parris Island at January 5th. So I was in there for all the major holidays. It was awesome.
Yeah, I went in September 3rd. Was my ship date. I shipped up to Great Lakes.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and then I was in school for Thanksgiving because I broke my ankle in school. And then we finished Christmas, and that really screwed with the leave. So they were like, you can either stick around and stand watch and not really have a holiday, or you could take 2 weeks leave. And I was like, well, I'll just take the leave. Well, I had just gotten out of boot camp.
Yeah.
And I had just gotten my orders, and they were shipping me overseas. So they were like, yeah, you can take 2 weeks. So I was like, okay, so I took 2 weeks, or the 10 days or whatever it was.
Right.
So that puts me negative already. And then right before I shipped out, they were like, because you're going where you're going to Guam, and that boat's forward deployed, like you won't be coming home for quite some time of this 4-year stretch. And
so you get 30 days.
We'll give you another 30 days.
Yep.
here I am, 45 days in the hole, fresh out of boot camp, with a brand new Fossil watch on my wrist.
Oh, nice.
18-year-old, cocky. Now I'm like, I think I'm jacked because, like, boot camp.
Yeah, a lot of exercise, man.
I was always, I did some recruit fun and got myself busted up every night until graduation because, I am who I am. It's so funny, even as like a grown man now raising my kids, I'm just like, there's some traits that I'm still just a little kid, like, no, man, I'm gonna skate this ledge whether you like it or not, security guard. Anyways,
that's funny. I'm same way. What I find is funny is a lot of guys, a lot of my friends that are veterans, we serve together, and a lot of people I meet that are veterans, it's like we had this part of our personality trait is kind of against authority, right? I don't like being told what to do, so I'm going to join the Marine Corps.
I'm going to be the best at doing everything that they tell me to do.
Exactly. Oh my God, how dumb. I had a great time. I'm glad I wouldn't change it, honestly, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I loved, I didn't want to get out, I chose family over service.
Same.
And I think my wife saw that I was going to be a career Navyman. Like I had, there wasn't even, everything was strategic from the time that like I chose to be a torpedo man. I chose my orders to Guam. They were like, hey, here's your dream list. And so I talked to my instructor and I was like, hey, what do you know? And I talked to the third class petty officer who was undesignated. So he got to choose after going to sea for 3 years. He got to choose his job, and he chose to come and do gun stuff. And so he had already been to sea, and he said, hey, this is what I know. And he knew about Jacksonville, Florida, and he knew about, the bases over here. And TM1 Geraci, she knew about Guam. And she's like, look, if you're trying to get out of the U.S., they're going to stick you in Norfolk. You're going to end up East Coast, and you're going to end up like it's going to be a rough go. Like here, it's a tropical island. So she sold me on this. Here's this Navy vessel that's forward deployed to Guam, and it's beautiful and the ocean. And man, wasn't she not lying? It was just amazing. And then I met the Navy, and it was a wake up call.
Yeah.
Hey, here's your Liberty card. You need to be back in your domicile by a certain hour. And I'm all like, I know everything. What are you talking about? We're at war. And I truly, like, I signed up knowing, September 2003 is when we shipped. Like, things were rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
Right. And I just had this idea in my head that, like, I'm going overseas. It's not going to be peaceful, especially when they started elevating the security protocols across all the bases as, the push increased and everything. And I got to the ship and I got a rude awakening. And I learned about the workforce because a lot of people don't realize that there's a lot of military jobs that it's basically blue collar workforce. And so we were running shop mentality, working with, explosives, weapons and such, and heavy equipment and cranes and moving weapons. And it just became a shop job. And I guess I became a little disdain. I had a little disdain, even though we were weapons department and we got to do all the cool stuff. And then we got a new chief. And when he came on board, we got some cool programs that came out, and they gave me an opportunity to lead a team waterside doing torpedo retrieval.
Oh, wow.
So that was like, if they're like, hey, what's the coolest thing you did in the military? I ran a small skiff boat and the main water team for recovering torpedoes. And,
so what is this, like torpedoes that get shot and miss or whatever, don't blow up or something, or what?
So just because I'm not familiar with if the tech manuals have crossed over a certain security clearance level.
Yeah,
let's just say that. Let's just say like a Tomahawk missile will come from the factory, and that missile had been tested and then reproduced over and over and over, and assuming that there's a low failure rate, is why they got the government contract, right?
Sure.
With the torpedoes, the fish, we'll call them fish. With the fish, they've got to prove themselves before getting a payload, and especially the big ones that are coming out of our submarines. They're tested, and they're not just tested once, twice, thrice. They are tested.
Wow.
So they boosted this torpedo retrieval program where we were at, and had us operating out of a box, and we got to play war games. The submarine and us, and we'd go into this box, and we would ensure that that them and the 7th Fleet Submarine Command were certified to do what we needed to do with those type of weapons.
Huh. That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
that is cool.
So they float, and then you go and grab them, and you bring them back to the ship. And the freight cable had 3 cranes on board, starboard, port, and then center line. So you get this device, and crane comes down. You hook it all up, and it goes topside, and then you got to flush all the nasty hydrogen cyanide byproducts out of them, and pack them back up, and get them refueled, and back to the line to prove themselves. So it's very, very interesting because it has nothing to do with airsoft. It has nothing to do with milsim. I mean, we ran ranges and armories and shot, and we were armed and stuff and everything. But primarily, we were handling weapons, man, for the submarines. It was high paced, and we were there for some pretty gnarly stuff that happened. USS San Francisco, she had run aground and killed our buddy Ashley. And then we had a boiler explosion on board the cable that hurt some boys and took 2 lives. And so, like I said, I met the Navy when I went to Guam. It was, when you get out of work and there's nothing going on and we're safe and sound, because Anderson Air Force Base has got the greatest freaking Air Force Base ever up there, and they're keeping guard because we didn't have any. We were the only ship in port beside the subs. So we didn't have any
oh my gosh.
Yeah, there was no
you were spoiled,
area.
Bro.
yeah, totally spoiled. It was just our ship. So yeah, we didn't have to. We shared pier with the subs, so it was quiet. But yeah, it was a good time overseas.
When all this stuff broke out I was in, I think probably 10 years before you, maybe 11. I went in '89 and was in until '93. So, Desert Shield, Desert Storm, when all that stuff kicked off, I was actually in Okinawa. And Okinawa, Japan, this real tiny island part of Japan. And they have one major port there. It's Naha Port.
Mm-hmm.
And I've actually got pictures. I'll have to post them sometime. Maybe on Veterans Day I'll post some of those pictures. I've got pictures of some of the ships, Navy ships that docked there. I don't know what they were doing, if they were getting supplies or what, but we were running stuff down there for other ships as well. And then I had a picture of a couple of battleships that had the Tomahawks, or what were the missiles they were shooting back then? The
well, that depends.
Patriots?
You got the ASROCs. The ASROCs were probably more. That's those boxes.
Oh no, we didn't have that. They didn't have boxes. Okay.
If you're talking about Tomahawks, those are shot out of vertical cells.
Oh, okay. No, these are like two giant missiles propped up on this turret, right on the front of the battleship. It looked badass.
So Okinawa was a huge ammunition depot, like offload onloads. Okinawa, yeah. But I actually, you should talk more about how your experience on that small little island really is, because we knew Yokosuka.
Okay.
And we hadn't gone to Okinawa just yet. We'd done, Australia. We had done Russia. We had done Japan a bunch of times. And they're like, "Hey, we're gonna go to Okinawa," and we're like all excited.
Yeah.
Until we realized how small it was, and then they were telling us that we weren't even gonna be allowed to pull into port because of how big our crew was. There was no way they were gonna let us off the ship into Okinawa, like into anywhere. And so what was your experience with outside of the military on Okinawa at that time?
It was culture shock, man, because, going in at that time, there was this is, 89. I got over there in May of 90. So I flew into Kadena Air Base. This thing, this is before the internet, so we didn't know anything about Okinawa except what I saw in World War II movies. And then get over there, and it was really culture shock, man. We go to the first week is receiving and training, because you have to learn all the local rules and all this stuff. And I was in motor transport, so we had to, okay, you're driving on the left side of the road and that kind of shit. And so in the first week in receiving, one of the things they tell us is there's a lot of drugs that are legal on Okinawa: marijuana, mushrooms, opium is a big one. And make sure, like, there's bars out in town that serve drinks that have, like, that's part of the mixture of the drink is opium. And so so they taught us those ones, whatever. And we got out of that class, we're like, where's that bar again?
Yeah, we're professionals. Now everybody's writing it down. All
right, so make sure you don't go to this club over here and get this drink, oh God, or whatever. It had like 7 different liquors in it and opium. So we went and got that first and got it out of our system. We tried mushrooms. So anyway, it was culture shock. The all the bars that you would go into out in town, every single one, the normal was the girls, the waitresses were all topless. They didn't have to be dancers. They were that's how they walked around. And they would, we called them buy me drinky girls, because you buy them a drink and they'll sit there and talk to you, right?
Yeah.
So
only if Mama Son allows it, right?
Only if Mama Son allows it. That's right. And so one of the first bars we go into, and I grew up, a good little Catholic boy. Okay, now I rebelled, in high school and as a teenager and stuff, and got in some trouble.
You joined the Marine Corps, brother.
Yeah. All right. So I go in and we go to this Moonlight Club, and they're like, yeah, that, guys that had taken us there that had already been in country like 6 months or whatever, and they know all the ins and outs. So they're like, yeah, man, you can get your dick sucked under the table for $20 here. And I'm like, what? No way. So we sit in this booth, and waitress comes over, buy me a drink. A girl comes over, and she's like, you sucky? You want sucky? And
they're trying to take your order.
Oh my God. So we're like curious. We're like, there ain't no way this is going to happen. They're going to go to a room or something like, so one of my buddies, Skidmore was, he's like, yeah, he's from New York. He's like, yeah, I'll take it. So he pulls out money. She grabs a wad of napkins and crawls under the table. And I'm like, bro, he's like right next to me. I'm like, I don't want to touch your thing. Get out of here.
Weird.
So then that part was, there was really, prostitution was legal. So there was a lot of prostitution, whorehouses and stuff. And then most of the bars offered some kind of show. So banana show was popular, where the girls are, they're fully naked. When they strip, when they're dancing, they're fully naked. And then they're sticking a banana up their thing. They're sticking a stack of quarters up their thing. So you have a quarter show, banana show, a snake show. They would put a small, like, garter snake up their thingy, and it would crawl back out. Like, it's just wild.
And what people don't understand is, like, this is the normal.
That's the normal.
So you're talking about Okinawa. So, like, again, we didn't get off Okinawa, but I spent time in Japan.
Yeah.
And I was a good boy, but I got briefed by my second class, who told me about the Smiles game, which was in essence the exact same table game that you're talking about.
Yeah.
But they took it even a step further, and it was like, hey, if you crack a smile, you're by the next round of drinks. And like there would be multiple hostesses underneath the table, and it's like, and you hear these stories. I mean, like, okay, when you join the Navy, you're like, hey, I'm gonna be a sailor, right? Like, you hear all the stories, the ping pong, the donkey, the this, the that, and so you're a totally different generation, and it just didn't. I mean, the Philippines, guys that went to the Philippines, like this is their, like, that's just the culture.
Yeah.
It really is a shame though, because some of these girls, the conversation is just so nice. Anyways.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was
My friends.
yeah, dude, it is once you're like at first it's culture shock, you're like, holy crap, this is all allowed to happen? Like what okay, and then
not in America, right? Like,
right. You know what's weird, dude? Like you get used to that every day, right? We're 24/7, we're training, we're working, and we're, going out and every night, meeting up.
Your little paycheck.
Yeah, for real. And I come back. I got stationed at Camp Pendleton. It was my last duty station in a place called Edson Range. It's real tiny, and shooting range. And I get out there, and this is Southern California. And first, I was just getting ready to turn 21. And when I got back there, so I'd been there a few months. My guys were like, "Hey, I was the only one in our platoon actually that had been overseas." And all those guys, their first duty station.
Fresh out of boot then?
Yeah, so a lot of those guys, this was their first duty station. This was my second. So I already been a few years. These guys were in like a year. So, they're like, "Oh, we're going to take out." I had just gotten corporal too. So E4. So earn my blood stripe, go through the gauntlet. Boss. Yeah, dude, it was cool, But we go out in town to go to this expensive strip club called Platinum Plus or something like that in by San Diego. Well, it was actually La Jolla, California, and I'm like, what the hell? Where's the naked people? Like, where's the naked girls? Like, they're only taking off their tops. I'm like, and like, what the hell? This is weird. It was odd.
They're like, "Hey man, you want to see a $5 trick?" And you like throw a $5 on the stage, and the girl takes all her clothes off, and you're like, "Dude, that cost me $1 in Guam." Right. So when I was in Guam, if you've been to Guam and you don't know Club USA, you've never been to Guam. Like, okay. Everybody who's there. So yeah, and it's like I remember being introduced, because they introduce you, and when I say they, I mean like my division commanders took me out. Like they were like, "Weapons department, we're taking the fucking new guy out." And they took me to Viking, and that's where they break your underwear and fucking give you the biggest wedgie, and then they beat your ass with a belt, and it's just like the most embarrassing thing ever. And everybody's awesome. Like, "Hey zing, hey zing," and then shortly after that, the Navy's like, "Kindler, gentler Navy. We have a no hazing policy." But again, remember, I'm playing with submariners, so they were different.
Submariners are nuts, bro.
Dude, totally different. And you have to be like,
yep.
If you've ever been on a submarine, like maybe these big ones. My buddy Dusty, he was on the bigger subs, but we were working with the small boys, the fast attack subs, and like you're, arm length away, like you're touching.
Really?
I mean, like it's not necessarily that small, but
it's pretty small in there.
You and me, yeah. If me and you are passing in the P-way, one of us
we have to turn. Yeah,
we're touching tips. I mean, or you could turn and be the bottom, but I mean,
right. Oh, that was nice.
It's interesting because and I want to ask you this: were you serving? And this is all males with you, right? So you got there's no females at this time at your command.
No, we had females at our command. Okay. 9th Motor Battalion on Okinawa was, we had females. We had WMs, women Marines. And I think in our platoon, or in our company, we had 2. So
they were
we had 2.
No, our ship was mixed. And I just got off the phone this morning with a gentleman who's a Navy corpsman. And he asked me, he's like, "So did you have a mixed command?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, dude. Like I went through boot camp where our entire bay, one side was 407, the other was 408, because all the males from both divisions lived in one, and then the females from both divisions lived in another. And I don't know anything other than the whole mixed thing. But
no, we didn't have I think even today The Marine Corps is one of the only, I think the only one that does not mix during boot camp. They're actually on opposite sides of Paris Island. Like I never
You
saw
never even see him. But
no.
what a distraction, right?
Not only that,
I mean,
but
I don't
even when
think
you go to
there's-
medical, like for boot camp, when I had to go to, when I first got to boot camp, the first thing they did was, with all the checks, the medical stuff, they ripped out my wisdom teeth, and yeah, and my teeth, I never had a problem with my teeth. I never had braces. I had really strong teeth. I never chipped a tooth. I mean, I hit my mouth a lot, hit my teeth on stuff growing up, but I just got, good. I got my mom's teeth, and she's never had braces. Her teeth are perfectly straight even to this day, and she's like 83. And so I'm like, why would they need to rip my wisdom teeth out? Anyway, so you just stand in line, you wait, whatever, they go in, and so yeah. But even in medical, at boot camp, I never saw a female the whole time at boot camp until the graduation day. So not one. In passing, no nothing. So that 3.5 months is, all guys.
So I do a kids camp, and we discuss and we segregate, because these kids are kids, and we take away their cell phones, and we keep them separated during non-training times, just because boys are boys, girls are girls.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you get to the military, that definitely doesn't change. But it's interesting perspective as far as from a training level. Is the mixture of genders fluid for training? And I think that question is so muddled now. I couldn't imagine how it is serving.
I definitely don't have a problem saying I think they should be segregated.
Yeah.
For training.
I mean, I would tell you, I served on a ship with females, and I think you would eliminate a lot, but I don't have the perspective of the issues that you have with an all-male crew. You know what I'm saying? Like they abolished smokers sessions for a reason. Smokers is when, two dudes had a problem, they just go take it out in the fan room with boxing gloves on Friday night. And it was supported by the command. You can get away with that at all male commands, and when you integrate them, everybody's got to watch their P's and Q's even that much more.
Yeah, I don't like that. It's not fair to the guys. It's not fair to the girls. I think for training, any kind of schooling and training, or maybe not schooling, but unless your school is like SOI, the School of Infantry or something, like that kind of stuff. Anything that's really, really high intensity, I think they should be segregated. I think the women should be trained by women in that respect, and guys should be. I mean, that's just my opinion. And with my wife and I, we have 5 kids, 3 boys, 2 girls, and once they get like girls. When they're about 7 or 8, they'll sit and listen really well, and they'll want everyone else to sit and listen. Boys, you can't hold their attention for nothing, bro. Like, go make them do something physical. But when they get to be teenagers, they kind of flip flop. The girls they're still organized and stuff. Like, our girls were like, taking care of their homework, all the school stuff. They're way better at that. But they have all this drama, and the guys are super easy to take care of. Like, they're just no mess. But separating, I think, is really good. And a lot of countries do separate when they, for schooling, like at a young age. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't want to get canceled, but I'm raising 2 little girls, and I put a lot of masculine emphasis into what they're being. My girls skateboard. My girls know how to, handle themselves. Yeah. I don't shy away. They, when I say handle themselves, like watch what they can do with a Nerf gun. Okay. But I really do. I think if you're going to expect gender roles, that you have to. The boys need to be trained to be boys, and the girls need to be trained to be girls, and there needs to be a crossover. Boys need to learn how to cook and clean.
Absolutely.
So they can take care of themselves, because gentlemen, if you can take care of yourself, you'll truly be able to find a good woman. You won't be able to find somebody who will just be able to use that, and then they just become your mommy, and then you're stuck in an abusive relationship.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it was pretty normal for me when I was a kid growing up, me and my sisters. it was pretty normal for not just our family, but most families around us, where the mom would teach the kids, like boys and girls, like all the girl stuff, right? Like what my mom did, like the cooking. My mom still worked; she worked a job, but and my dad did as well. But she would cook, she would clean. We had chores, like we would clean the house every Saturday morning. We had to clean the house, and that was. My mom taught me how to sew, like how to sew, how to use a sewing machine, an old Singer sewing machine with a foot pedal. My mom taught me how to sew buttons on because that was a real common thing. So when I got into boot camp, they were teaching us how to do that, for our camis and stuff. I was like, I can do this all day. I can do this with my eyes closed. Yeah, I think it's important. Like your job as a parent is to teach your kids how to survive in this world as an adult so they don't have to be dependent on you when they're 20, okay? They're supposed to be out of the house when they're 16, 17, 18. That's a natural progression. I know our society says, oh no, they're still little kids. No, they're not.
No, technically they were, at 13 years old, back
Yeah,
when the farmers
that's
ran
right.
the countries, 13 years old,
Yep.
you were a man. You were going
right.
out and taking care of business because you had to.
You go through puberty. That is the process of you becoming an adult.
Yeah.
That's the whole biological process,
Like I said, I'm a stay-at-home dad, and I homeschool my kids. We pulled them out of the school system just because of our views.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, my son's and him and his wife are homeschooling as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and my kids' growth over the last 3 years is just amazing. My sanity, maybe not so much. They grades every year.
That's okay.
No, but I'm really the relationship basis with these kids is so fantastic. But I had a conversation with my wife, I don't know, probably about a year and a half ago, and I was like, "Look, I'm going to take him out of your world." And I'm speaking about my son Aaron, and I said, "I'm taking him out of your world." And she goes, "Well, what does that mean?" And I said, "He's coming into mine," which means that when I'm in that mode with him, you just need to back up because he needs to learn what it means to be a man. If he chooses to be a freaking a kitty cat at a furry convention later on down the road, he will already know how to change a tire and he will be the strongest kitty cat ever. And like I always crack jokes like this because, this society is so crazy with, everybody can be whatever they want. And right on, dude, you do you. But if I see a furry head in the closet, dude, I've got new target practice coming up, okay? But no, my son takes care of his sisters and teaching him. Now we're starting to teach him how to be a man and what that means. And so he said, "Hey, Publix, they hire at 14. Like, what are you thinking?" And he thinks he's going to get a job when he turns 16 at Spirit Halloween. He's really into Halloween.
Nice.
And I worked from the time I was 13 as a golf caddy because they opened up the country club for teenagers to come in and do caddying. And so they partnered the 13-year-olds with the 16, 17, and 18-year-olds, which was not good for my growth and development. I found cigarettes and skateboards and Limp Bizkit really quick.
Oh my God, right,
dude?
That's so funny. My wife just mentioned Limp Bizkit the other day because I was like, remember that song we used to like dance to and like kind of just, and she's like, oh yeah, Limp Bizkit. I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, it's cool.
Well, Fred Durst is back, man.
Really?
Yeah, they're performing at Rockville next month, and like I'm trying to get Rachel to like convince me to go. I don't know how I do at 3-day concert. Crazy, I'll go to a concert, but concerts are rough just because of how loud everything is.
Yeah.
I'm like, can't really bring noise canceling headphones to a rock concert and expect not to get made fun of. So Airsoft games, I wear a helmet and noise canceling headphones, and I'm always asking, "Where's my baseball?"
That's funny.
Have you seen my baseball? What time is check-in? You want to touch my airsoft rifle?
We had one of the events I went to at GTI with these guys. Might have been one of the Stonebreakers. It was a Third Coast event at GTI. This is a few years ago. Might have been. I actually think it was my first event I went to with them after we started the channel. But anyway, there was JP, his cousin, is a Army vet, and he brought one of his buddies that was in his unit, and his this guy, those two guys. Well, his friend that he brought had a really bad PTSD. Like he would have episodes, and so they got stuck in the entryway of the building.
Yeah.
The main building.
Yeah.
And they were there. It was like everyone. This is when you could get tag-ins.
I remember this,
dude.
So I'm like, yeah, dude. I've been to every TCA, so I remember this. It was his first event.
Yeah.
And it was Kraut. Kraut came off the field to kind of talk him down.
Yeah, he was freaking out.
Yeah,
he was. He was in with us. Yeah.
Yeah, because I run the organization and we get vets connected to MilSim, that's a huge aspect. Like when we go through and I ask people to fill out, the enlistment form, it's for me to know exactly what I'm dealing with. I can tell you just now with my experience reading an enlistment form, I can sum up in a very general 1, 2, 3 what your career probably entailed, and in the most generic. I don't want to be like, well, I know that this guy did this many combat tours and he lost this many guys. Like, no, I can just tell whether you've been to combat, if you've experienced serious loss inside of combat, or if you served in a branch that has operational mindset. Maybe you served and didn't have any operations. You rode a desk the whole time. You were a postal clerk. Maybe you got to handle a gun once every 6 days for watch. But now Airsoft is enticing to you because you didn't get that aspect.
Sure.
So from A to Z, when you look at it, MilSim is not a one-size-fits-all. For sure. Mm-hmm. When you're like, hey man, I've got serious PTSD, it's like, okay, maybe we shouldn't go to the event that has Humvees and explosions,
but blank shooting 50 cal and like really recreating that immersion.
Yeah, and I think sometimes, listen, the brain is such a powerful mechanism, right? It is amazing what it will create for you. Mm-hmm. And if you haven't dealt with your PTSD, if you're not honed into your triggers, if you're not seeking medical attention, whether that's on medical marijuana program, and maybe you're on the pharmacy program at the VA. Maybe you skip the VA and you're just doing civilian doctors. You can't be the dude who rides the couch with no care and expect to seek asylum inside of Airsoft and MilSim. In fact, you should probably go get yourself some tools. And it's not about help. It's about providing yourself with the means to cope. And that's all PTSD is. It's your inability to cope with the traumas that were brought in front. And if you can manage your triggers, whichever ways that is, meditating or taking medication or playing Airsoft, I definitely think that if you're bringing new guys out, you should ask some questions. And if the guy's like, yeah, man, I went out and I got after it this way, that way, this way, and that this guy's just wired, like, maybe take him to the local field and get a rental gun. Mm-hmm. And wear a paintball mask where it's not as simulated,
Right.
I don't know.
I think that's why it's important. Yeah, these guys, like, maybe to start out, like those that's why one of the reasons I like how broad Airsoft is, because you can find pretty much throughout the year, you can find some type of event that you could connect with. Like, if you don't really like I've heard guys say, veterans say, I'm not really interested in doing like a MilSim West type of MilSim, or even some of the TCA ones, that are kind of force on force. I've already done that. I'm not interested in doing it again. Like, it's whatever.
Yeah.
So I want to do the LARP stuff. Like, I want to get into, they just had Galactic War back in November, right? That's like a Star Wars LARP event.
6mm
Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I love how diverse we have all these different events that people are starting to, put together and put on, like story-driven stuff. Grimnir Tactical, I know up there with Matty Moe and those guys, they do a lot of story-driven events that are kind of like, the story sounds a lot like Halo, or the futuristic type of things like that. Like Grimnir, they do. When I talk to Rabbit, he was like, yeah, we have a drone that shoots a tag in. And I said, no way. He goes, yeah, it'll go up and we have the camera and stuff and we can shoot. That's how you call an airstrike. You know how some of them, a lot of the events, they just, an admin will come over and throw like a red flag.
Yeah.
Say, oh, you guys are dead. No, he's like, no, we actually fly this drone up and it can hold one tag in round, like a Reaper round that explodes, and we shoot it onto the ground by these guys. I was like, that is awesome, dude. What? So there's a lot of options with a lot of these events that these guys that are coming out of the military with something they haven't really, this PTSD or, issues they haven't really overcome yet. They could go, they have options, that they could go do.
Yeah. And for us, we've got our charity game coming up and we're bringing in E4 effects for pyro and simulation and stuff. And that's what players want. They want more simulation. When I go to a World War reenactment where they shoot voice bullets at each other, they are exploding gunpowder left and right inside these mullets. These guys are loading freaking black powder with nothing. You know what I'm saying? And then we go to an airsoft game and it's just like ching 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 ching. And it's like, oh wow, there's explosions. And I remember when there was none of that. Like when we first started, there was none of that. Like I remember a throwable grenade. Like it was Thunder Bees. Thunder Bees was the only thing, and it was before we figured out that if you used a dime or washers, you could really, because the seating height was different on the CO2s, and that was the main issue with Thunder Bees was you had to match up your cylinders with the right amount of puncture to get the pressure to. So, anyways,
I didn't. I've never used one. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, and please don't message me about tech talk because I'm not the guy. I remember certain things, and I was a weapons guy in the military, but I don't like doing that stuff now. I'm not a tech guy. I don't tech my own guns. I'm still running the same weapon for 3 years. And
I know how to work on these guns. I know exactly what you're saying because I get a message on Discord like that they'll tag me in like, hey, how do I do this? Or this gun is doing this, and I always redirect them to we have a separate channel on the Discord that's for like repair stuff or whatever talk, and there's a handful of guys that are way better and know way more. Like they can give a very specific answer right away, and I'd have to look it up. Okay, I don't even know.
Yeah, I broke open a gearbox one time, and it's still in a bag. Okay? But we just started. We just got into HPA. Thank you, Junkies. Airsoft Junkies for building us the HPA system in our 1919 on our truck.
Nice.
So yeah, we're always looking for ways to increase milsim experiences for those that are playing, or to just have more wow factor to pull guys in, because the bigger the wow factor is, the more we're going to get combat vets. The less we're going to get, well, that looks kind of cool, but I'm not so sure about it, kind of thing. And it's like, you just got to come out and try it. You can't tell me that if I came into your office, right? Because you're not kinetic anymore, right? You got a 9-to-5 job, you got a wife, and all of these adulting things. If I come into your office building with a dozen Nerf guns and 100 rounds of foam, you and that whole office you're going to have your own little squad.
Yep.
You're going to be, you know what I'm saying? So
absolutely.
I think adults need to realize that like airsoft allows us to be kids again.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can stay in contact with that, you're going to find airsoft to be immensely enjoying, which regardless of whatever 31 flavor of ice cream you're chewing on. Bring that one back for Sal with TCA. He was always, it's 31 flavors of ice cream, right? So you don't have to like mint chocolate chip, but it might be somebody else's favorite. So calm down.
Exactly.
For us, we focus so much on milsim that we're like, hey, what's the most extreme? Like, I mean, last year we were working on trying to figure out how to get guys static line certified so we could look at jumping into airsoft games just as like, hey, can we do this? Right. And then it was like one of our guys was getting his rotary wing, and I was like, dude, keep going. I'll find us an MH6, and we'll bring Little Bird to the field, and we're dreaming and everything. And these guys are like, are you serious? And I was like, I don't know, but nobody's doing it. So, like, if you find a guy that's like, hey, man, I got a lot of money, and I don't really care. What you guys are doing is insane.
Yeah.
Like, that's how organizations. That's how Wounded Warrior Project is where it is right now. They had somebody with $1 billion come in and drop something on the table.
Yeah.
Not that we're Wounded Warrior Project, but
you got to have the idea. You got to. That's what I like about talking with all these different people. I love brainstorming. I love dreaming. I love talking about how things could be, or maybe some ideas on this, and just kind of bouncing ideas off. Like hearing other people's perspective on things. I love doing that. A lot of people have a hard time doing that once they're an adult because they, I don't know, it's like that mental block, like, well, if I can't see a way that it could, like how it could happen, then I'm not going to think about it. I'm not going to talk about it. And I'm like, well, how do you think all this stuff, look at like this, somebody had to have an idea, They're
just consumers. They don't think that's the laziness factor. I don't have to think.
Yeah.
I go and I pay my dues and I buy my groceries and I don't have to worry about the guy in a basement who made the packaging specific to your Oreos.
Yeah, I know. I think I've said this too before. I know I said it to my kids. I'm like, I thought with this stuff, right? Like when this came out, you have all this information at your fingertips. I thought that generation would get a lot more well informed. Not really smarter, but
right.
more informed. And it kind of went the opposite. It really went the opposite. I guess because we always look for.
They don't have to search.
Yeah.
Do you remember when internet first came out, and then we started learning about what key phrases that you actually plug in? Do you know that these kids don't even know those basic and or if? Well, now it doesn't really matter because you have AI, right? Mm-hmm. Like my wife's like, "Hey, check this out. I'm going to take all of these meeting notes from our charity game meeting, and I'm going to throw it into AI and have them generate us an actual meeting minutes thing."
Yep.
And like the technology, it's better than we could have paid somebody to do it.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like my wife's a really smart individual, but neither of us, are Hartford intellects. And this thing's written with wording that I'm like, hey, I want to go to this game.
I'm telling you, bro.
It's crazy.
All of the descriptions on these videos that I've been putting out on the podcast for probably a year, maybe not quite a year, almost. Whenever the Chat GTP was kind of available last year to everybody, that's what I do. I don't write all these descriptions out. You can see a definite cutoff line where I used to write it, and it would be like one sentence. Airsofter Freddy is an airsofter in Chicago or from Chicago or whatever, and is a military Navy vet or something like that. That's it, because I'm not a writer. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I put this stuff is 4 paragraphs of elegantly written stuff or whatever. I put in one time. This a few months ago, just for shits and giggles, really for me, I put in, I want to tell, this is what I typed in Chat GTP or whatever, I want to do a talk about my life experience, period. Then I put in, grew up Catholic in Northeast Ohio, like all the bullet points of my life. Military, high school, football, military, blah, blah, blah. I married, at 21, 5 children that are all adults now, blah, blah, blah. So just bullet points. This thing came back with like no kidding, like a 10-minute, 15-minute talk. It was page and page and page. It was going and going and going. So I sent like the first page, copied and pasted it, and sent it to my son as a text. And I was like, look what this thing came back. I sounded like the most awesome person ever, bro.
You're ready to start booking motivational speaker talks?
For real. And the thing was, it knew that I was doing a talk, quote unquote talk on it. So like a speech. So the way it started out, it was written that way. Not written as to just read it. Like it was written like you're going to, read it and speak it like a teleprompter. So it was like, I stand before you today with this and this, I'm like, bro. This is
But all the
crazy.
amazing filler,
It's
But
crazy.
isn't that funny how much like that's what you choose to do right now, right? But it takes way longer to read it. So is that the purpose that
I
you've got
know.
this? Yeah. So it's like, what happened? So it's interesting because right now doing business, you've got half these people that are like, I want a contract. I want it defined, your roles, my roles, to protect everybody. And then on the other hand, you have people that are like, hey, I'm good with a handshake and a nod. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, well, that's how business used to be. It didn't have to be, this, that, and
Yeah.
the art of the deal, learning how to have conversation of things. We go back and tie it right back into teaching kids and working with kids, like
Mm-hmm.
teaching these kids how to communicate.
Yeah.
Because pretty soon it's going to be like, hey, chat, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Here, this is what I want to say. And then they just hold their phone out to you and nobody talks to each other anymore. It's just automatically taken from here and into translation. It's crazy.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too I want to touch on. I guess kind of reiterate was that, with our kids, like raising kids, boys and girls, I both my wife and I taught both, all of our children, like all different things. The manners, the respect, the how tos. I taught the girls, my little girls, along with the boys, a lot of things. Right? We didn't separate on those things. It was more of like an interest thing. Like if the boys, if my wife was cooking, the girls would go in there and be like, "Oh, how do you do this?" It was a natural thing for them. And my boys were like, my boys are over here trying to, shove a peanut up their nose or something.
Well, they learn from each other, right?
Yeah.
The girls bring a different perspective than the boys do, and then the boys usually just come and jerk off and gum it all up, and the girls are screaming and yelling, and
right.
And then the other times you'll turn the cheek and they'll just the nicest to each other, and you're like,
yeah, isn't that wild? Yeah, so it's
good.
and
Good,
that, but that's
we grew up with I grew up with just boys. It was me and my brother.
Okay.
We didn't have any girls. We had a girl cousin, Courtney.
Yeah.
But when she came around, man, there was just we were crazy. You know what I'm saying? And then the boys
trying to show off and
yeah, we weren't nice to each other.
Well, that's a good point though. The communication part is really important, man. And that's kind of, teaching kids and adults how to communicate better is really important. And I think going back to what you said earlier too, like, when somebody's in a mil sim, if you don't know your weaknesses, and I know you said it in a different way, but if you don't know your weaknesses by the time you're an adult, right? I think the military really helps with that. I think that's why we grow up so fast and become a little more mature out of the military, is because the responsibility, obviously, but also because you're doing so much stuff, like all these different things. You're learning, you're training, it's pretty much nonstop. It's an intense lifestyle, and you get to know what you're good at and what you're bad at, and you get made fun of right out of the gate at what you're bad at. So you build up some thick skin, and you go, you know what? Yeah, okay, I'm not the greatest at this. That's okay. And it could be something that you want to work on and try to get better at. You can, right? There's nothing stopping you from, if you want to do the amount of work that it takes to get over that stuff. But if you really, the people that are really well adjusted and can really communicate well are typically the ones that know their weaknesses and are okay with it, because they're not always on the defensive, right? When you talk with them.
Yeah. I think at that point, you could say that those people probably have had experiences in their lives where they've worked through the problem, and that there's been some type of reconnect on the back end. I think when you're dealing with people that aren't like that, you're usually dealing with somebody who's like was coddled, or you were always picked up when they cried, or you weren't actually forced to go through the problem. I mean, telling you about, going and living overseas right out of the gate of boot camp and turning 18, like shell shock galore. Like I'm out there 18 months and boys were overseas for 18 months deployed. That's shell shock, and you have to know what your worth is. And the military shows you that right away. Yeah. There's very little coddling. Like, I mean, I didn't get no coddling. I think it's a little different now, but Yeah, when we're raising my boys and I'm looking at my girls, I give them just enough love, but it's always a little bit tough in there just because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we're all comfortable because there is no struggle. Well, what
Yeah.
happens when there is struggle? What are you going to do? You know, I have this board behind me, and it was like, your reactions dictate your future.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was like we kept dealing with the same stuff in the house, this reactions, and we can tie this into airsoft. Your reaction when you get hit should be nothing more than, shit, I'm dying, I'm dead, that guy killed me, I really suck. Say it with me. I suck. Now lay down, shut up, and think about what your next move should be when you spawn back in, because isn't that what we do when we play video games? But no, you want to just stand there and bitch that you're getting overshot. Well, die better, and I promise you, won't get overshot. They'll stop shooting you. But no,
Good point.
yeah, dude, it's.
So how
people.
did you get into just give a brief history of VFA, Veterans for Airsoft, and then what go into some of your events and what you're excited about for this year?
So VFA was the byproduct of a failed team experience. Instead of quitting Airsoft and going that route, I decided, okay, listen, I'm going to be naive and think that I'm the first one with a great idea. But it was more about executing the fact that I wanted to be 100% volunteer based. I want the industry to back us. I want to open up an avenue where I can do for others what exactly was done for me. And so I'm on a golf course and a bachelor party and not having a good time and in a really low point, sticky point in my life. It would get lower, which would have forced me to pick up this business card, but Bobby handed me a business card and he's like, "Hey man, want to play Airsoft?" And I'm like, "Dude, you're a 3-4 Lima, dude. Like you've got, 2 combat tours, a Purple Heart. Like Airsoft's not cool, dude." Like, and I was drinking, and that was what I was getting after, right? Was the bottle and just not having fun time. He says, "No, take me out." So takes me out, and the rest is history. The event took me to an event, and it was like 500 players. And he was like, "We don't run at StartX." He's like, so the game kicks off. He's like, "Just stop." And he stops me, and he's like, "Now watch all the free loot fall out of the players' pockets." And you just watch it like, you know what I'm saying? So this is like a regional game. And so he made it really fun, but I found myself back to back with him fighting from behind a pallet that had slots in it, and we're running low on ammo. And I just looked at him, and he looked at me, and he goes, "Are you having fun?" And I was like, "This is the greatest time of my life." Like, and then I met a fake Navy SEAL immediately after that when we were going back to the parking lot, and he cued me into the community and how there's some people you got to watch out for, but when I realized that there's a huge following, like there's a lot of vets inside of this airsoft craziness. And so when my wife was like, "Well, what would you do?" And I was like, "Well, let's just provide them gear, right?" And she's like, "Well, what about tickets?" And I was like, "Let me ask my friends." And so that's what I did. I was just like, "Hey Sal, hey Dave, like hey John Lou, hey Bo, AMS, everybody was pretty much, yeah, dude, like, great. What's your plan?" And it's like, "Hey, 501c3, we've got the backing for it." A guy threw down a bunch of money for the lawyers to write it all up. And we sat down and we said we wanted to bring something to Airsoft that was true, honest, and was about giving back to vets who not necessarily needed a free game, but needed the camaraderie and needed something in their life. And we're super successful. We've got an Airsoft team now. We're traveling to about 12, 13 events a year. It's probably more than that, but we're trying to be. Yeah, and because we primarily are funded off of raffle tickets, right, and patches, it's not a ton of money, and we all know how much it costs to go to these MILSIM events, and we don't want these vets. We want their first experience not to be like, "Well, did I get my money's worth?" Like, imagine your first event being a rained out event that took 2 of your guns. Your food got soaked, you didn't have a good time, and there were bed bugs in your hotel. Like, you think you're going to come back? Like, you're not. So we're like, yeah, we can offer something. So we rolled it out, and here we are, in our 7th year.
Wow.
still 100% volunteer based. My wife puts in a lot of hours, and this is where I drive my crazy. I'm a super hyperactive person, adrenaline chaser, and I pace back and forth. And so I'm a stay-at-home dad, and I homeschool my kids. So VFA is a really great escape for me, and we're able to do cool things. And so the past 3 years, we've really been pushing, taking our charity game to the next level by adding pyrotechnics, by searching for AOs that are going to entice people to say, hey, spend your money and give it to us. It's going for a good cause. We want to continue to do what we do. We put veterans on helicopters. If there's a helicopter at the event, we're really pushing to try and, 6 or more vets on the helicopter, because that experience is amazing. So check out Stonebreaker with TCA. That's coming up. It's got a helicopter. And it was really just about like everything in every inch of life has a veteran or a charitable organization. Where was ours? And I've answered that question. We're right freaking here. For all of you who can't hear in the back, VFA is right here. We are Airsoft and Milsim's charitable organization. If you doubt it, just come and meet with us. Come and talk to these guys that are hanging out. It's not about me anymore. I actually want it to be about the mission. So if you've got buddies, man, who are looking at Airsoft, who are watching these YouTube videos of Kicking Mustang and Navrich and Jet and all these guys, like, hey, we got an organization, we'll hook you up. What do you want to go to? Hit our website, veteransforairsoft.org, and we've got an event page that is listing all of the events that we're going to. And you're going to get a free ticket. You're going to get all the gear provided by our organization. You're going to get ammo. Pyro's coming back online, so we're really happy about that. So if you're a tag junkie, and you know that we love those tag nades. Like, we were really upset when they went away. You can throw them. They don't crush in your pocket, and they're super, super effective as far as loudness goes. Mm-hmm. And we're all about chasing that sim. So, yeah, man, that's VFA is here to stay. We're pushing the envelope this year. Not only are we heading back to Camp Liberty in April with our Terminator-themed charity game,
nice,
right? So 2 factions battle each other, and then Terminators are on post, and they're there to challenge you to use small unit tactics to gain the upper hand. Violence of action is the only way to defeat them, and not 1v1. So all of you guys that are coming to the charity game are thinking that you're going to come out and like you're going to be John Connor. You need 3 John Connors to take down a Terminator. But yeah, the charity game, and then we were talking earlier, and I said it, and your eyes got all big. So we went ahead and rented a U.S. Navy destroyer, the USS Orlick. We're working with the Jacksonville Navy Museum for the Jacksonville Airsoft Festival, Memorial Day weekend on Saturday, May 25th. Down at the ship, we're going to take over the pier. We're bringing in as many of the industry vendors that are going to join. We got about a half dozen or so that are completely confirmed and locked in, and another dozen or so that we're kicking it around. A team section, so if you got an Airsoft team, come on down, come on up. This isn't just about Jacksonville, but it's about the Southeast region. This is where we all play events at. This is where we all congregate. Jacksonville is a great place. Memorial Day weekend's amazing. Mm-hmm. So VFA is hosting you guys here in downtown Jackson on board the ship in Pierside, and we're super stoked for food trucks, military vehicle section, music, just a really good time doing what we love, supporting the community, supporting veteran organizations, and remembering what Memorial Day really is about. And that's the entitlement that we have on the pier to celebrate and kick back some beers and have a good time, because our brothers paid that sacrifice so we can do these things. Mm-hmm. And that's what the Airsoft Fest is about, is giving back to the Navy Museum and what they're doing to keep military culture alive and to keep the memory alive for all of those that have come before us. So,
dude, that's amazing.
That's my little plug for our events.
Absolutely, man. And
if you're on the fence as a vet, hit me up, dude. I'll jump on the phone with you. Again, if you're just going to send the email and wait for me to hit you back, we'll just wait for our newsletter to come out. The easiest way is hit that enlist tab and email us and be like, I'm looking at this event and I want to go to this event. I will say, hey, Roger, dude, send me your DD-214 and you're locked in. It's as easy as that. And then we talk about uniform. Do you need a uniform? We want guys to, so that's the one thing VFA does is we don't provide you with a uniform. We have loaners, but we figure if we can get you to go to the Foot Locker, or we can get you to go to the Army surplus, we're already getting ahead of the game because now you're already in this mindset, right?
Yeah.
Of boom. And I think that's what hooks guys is this PCC, PCI, the ability to set up your gear. I'm going on a mini deployment. Listen, guys, this is what most of us inside of VFA, we talk about it. These are little mini deployments. We talk about the planning. We talk about, okay, we got to get our personal stuff ready. And then we travel. And then we get on site and nothing outside of that event matters, just what we're going to do that week, right? So it's wholesome. It keeps me grounded. And so I just want to keep spreading the message, man, to guys like you and through platforms like yours. Again, thanks for having me on. I think this is more I've talked about my personal life than anywhere else.
Yeah, dude.
I'm really into raising my kids right now, if you can't tell. And then shooting other kids in the face with plastic 6mm BBs and hitting them afterwards. No, it's my contribution. You know, what do you do? What do you do for vets? You know,
right?
And if you can answer that question, then we're on the same team, man. Because I want to take care of the guy on my right and my left, and that team mentality. That's what we lack. A lot of the times, you hate your job, you have no friends, and then you're like, well, I go to the airsoft field. And there's my friends, and that's what the community is about.
Absolutely, man. 100% on board with that. That's what the mission of this podcast has become. It didn't start out that way. I didn't really know. Actually, I didn't plan on doing a podcast. And most of you guys have heard that story, numerous times. But it just kind of turned into this thing. And I found the mission for this podcast along the way. Once I started doing them and talking with people, I realized, oh wow, I really enjoy talking with people like this. And the time that I started doing it, and this channel in general, I was coming out of a really bad illness, being partially paralyzed, and so this was therapy for me. It helped so much, and so. Once I started doing the podcast and having people on, it helped even more, and I really enjoyed it. Like, this is one of the things I love doing, even in real life, outside of this podcast. Just in general, out in public or whatever, is talking with people, meeting people, and finding out. I'm really genuinely curious and interested in how somebody got to where they're at right now. Like, how was your life? What path did you take? Some things we choose and some things we don't have a choice in life. And but we end up here at this one spot meeting. We're running into each other. How did you get here? I love doing that, and the mission became this connecting all these other airsofters and veterans and law enforcement and everyone that with all their different backgrounds. Connecting them, because something that's really powerful that a lot of us don't realize until we start experiencing it, I guess, is the human connection is really learning about someone's background and hearing their story. We really connect with, and you're not going to connect with everybody, but you're going to find that one story, that person, that you're going to relate with. And then that is going to be, that's our role. That's our job. We're here on Earth to help each other be better, right? And be more positive and kind of go in a better direction in life. And we're supposed to lean on each other. And so whatever I'm feeling, if I'm down in the dumps, if I'm feeling sorry for myself, I'm wasting time, because there's somebody out there that is waiting for me, right? They don't know it yet, but I'm going to help them in some way. And I don't know it yet either. But the more time I spend by myself, worrying about myself, just thinking about myself, thinking about my problems, thinking about all that crap, instead of going out like talking like this or talking with people and trying to connect, then it's just wasted time. This person, there's somebody out there that you're supposed to help, and you're doing that. You guys are doing that. What you're doing right now, you're following that same path. We're doing the same thing, here with this podcast, is connecting people. It's a powerful force, man, of positivity. It really is. And I know it sounds all hokey. I know military vets are like, man, it's okay, all the good feelings and stuff, but it's super powerful.
No, it is. And, I've got a message for our brothers and sisters. For every time you throw that snide comment, remember that it's a civilian you're talking to, and none of us are wearing a uniform anymore.
Yeah.
We don't live by that code anymore. That skin has been shed. If you talk to anybody who's been through therapy, they talk about you have to shed the dead skin. You have to rebirth yourself. And so, whether you ride motorcycles, right, and you're in a motorcycle club, whether you play airsoft, maybe you're into real steel, maybe you're into ballet dancing or furry conventions, it does not matter. Mm-hmm. The reality is this: you are looking for acceptance. You're looking for a group of people who share the same beliefs as you, the same hobbies as you, and we're all looking for that next endorphin release, that next adrenaline rush. And like you're saying, you and me are sitting here and having a conversation, and I've had probably the most roughest 4 days I've had in, man, a long time.
Really?
Yeah, we had some trauma hit the family recently, and just I had a job to do with the family, and so now that we're on the back end of this thing we're dealing with, I'm actually now feeling my emotions.
Yep.
And I'm angry, and am I pissed off, and it's all bringing back these other things in my life from service and this and that, and you have to have perspective.
Yep.
And you have to have kindness, and you have to have a team to rely on.
Yep.
So thank you for, I get to talk to kids all day long, and then my wife comes home and, sometimes she doesn't want to talk to me. Sometimes I don't want to talk to her. Sometimes we're just so busy listening to the kids talk because they don't ever stop that we forget we need this, right? We need this, like, hey, man, how are you? And just talking to somebody, guys, stops. There's no period. It becomes a semicolon, right? And I know there's another cheesy thing too, but the I got your six movement, the 22 a day, whatever promotional stamp we're putting on it, we're talking about the same thing, and it's universal across all human beings, not just those served. So be kind to each other and look out for each other, and call your buddy a dickhead and then tell him about Airsoft. Boy, do we have a big group of dickheads to play with. I mean, we're all just like, It's so funny. Bone Crusher was my last event with Third Coast up in Milledgeville, Georgia. And it was the first event that I've done with Third Coast where I wasn't in a leadership position of company level or higher. I was just a squad lead and running with my guys. And it took a year to get there, and a lot of grumping, and I wasn't sure if I was making the right decision. And man, did I have such a good time with my friends.
Nice.
To the point where, like, we always joked about, like, hey, let's actually use some tactics. Let's set a base of fire. Let's flank. Let's start working on SOP items. And all of us are just like having a hard time saying that out and openly because we're anticipating us all to make fun of each other. And then like nobody said anything. They're like, yeah, we think this is a great idea. And it was just like click, 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 click. And for the first time, we weren't taking it as a joke. We were, because I get serious with the command, but when it comes to like telling people how to play Airsoft, I'm really like, I'm the one that's like, God, that guy's a little serious. And then all of a sudden I'll start joking, but I'm there for a reason. And that's to get after it. I don't have the money to throw lead at, steel targets downrange. I really enjoy running around like a kid. And it's what I did when I was a kid. I always had these were my favorite weapons right here.
Right?
Pew, 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 pew. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, these platforms are fantastic. I love your podcast because, again, like you said, you don't discriminate, and you never know who your next guest is going to be.
Yeah.
Whether it's somebody that I've never heard of, but is big in their region, or it's the little guy. I mean, you've just had little guys that you've run into that are like, I want to have a conversation with this.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how we grow, and inclusiveness and making sure that we're listening to each other. So.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like with talking with people on here, I want this to be. I treat this and all of my online interactions. I treat with the same mindset as if I'm talking with that person in real life. So if I met somebody, so we'll get some judgmental remarks and comments here and there about who I've had on, or if they're the gender thing or the whatever kind of lifestyle they choose or whatever. I don't care about that stuff. If I met that person in real life, like if we were at a barbecue or something like that, and somebody brought their friends over, I would treat them with respect and good manners, and whatever we're talking about. I mean, if somebody walks in my backyard with 50 of us around here where we're doing a cookout or something, and tries to sell my kids some drugs when my kids are 10, or like right in front of me, then I'm going to say something. It's different, right? Like there's no reason. What I'm saying is there's no reason for me to be a jerk to somebody when
I haven't done anything to you.
Yeah, when we meet and we're talking, that's how I treat this. I'm going to talk with you, with respect. We're going to joke around. We're going to have fun, enjoy the conversation. And I remember the first time I had like a trans person on, they messaged me and said, I just wanted you to know ahead of time I'm trans. And I said, okay, do you play Airsoft? Yeah. Do you want to talk about it? Like your experience? Yeah. But let's go. I don't care. Like this is, it doesn't mean I'm for or against any of that kind of stuff. Like my personal beliefs about these things. I care about people in general. I really genuinely care about people. I like people, and I want them to do better in life, and I want them to have a better life and have better experiences. And we can all kind of help each other along the way. Kind of rising tide raises all ships. Okay, so let's do that. And that's kind of how I treat this when I have people on. So if somebody says something really bad, really messed up while we're talking, I would say something. But honestly, it's never happened. It's never happened. I mean, everyone's been cool.
I think Airsoft brings some really fantastic people, but it also brings out the worst traits in some people.
Yeah.
Because again, it's a sport where you're fighting, but you're really not getting punched in the face. And then every time you are bitching, it is because you're getting shot. You look at where the bitching comes, it's always when you're losing. So it's an interesting dynamic. On the topic of Airsoft having unique individuals across the spectrum, listen, man, if you're going to show up to an event and you're dressed in a manner that is not of what normal culture would say is normal, and I know the movement is moving. I'm fuck yeah, let's go, right on. But be prepared to talk about it.
Yeah,
educate me. That's why people stare. It used to be just the color of your skin was a reason people would stare. Now it's the color of your hair or the tattoos on your body, or if you're wearing pumps or stilettos, and whether or not you had plastic surgery. Again, none of this is new, and we circle it back to these overseas places that you and I have served in and visited. Man, they had transgender down a long time ago, guys. Fooling U.S. military soldiers for a long time. I mean, dude,
especially Philippines and stuff, man. Yeah, I've heard stories.
Yeah, lady boys, right? Nice.
But if you look at Jesus, man, Jesus hung out with the drunks and the prostitutes because those are the people that were hurting.
Yeah.
Like this is where we can't be judgmental. Like, okay, like, dude, come on. We're here for a reason. We're here for a purpose, and one of the biggest ones is to help each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get a kick out of the characters that we see. I love the kid that gets kitted up right when he gets there, and dude, that kid he's been obsessing. He's been wearing that kit in his bedroom for 6 days straight, guys.
Yeah.
You know, he slept in it. We used to watch movie Little Giants.
I love that movie. Yes.
Okay. So these kids are on the eve of their biggest football game, and there's that scene where he's wearing his cleats and his total, you know, his mom's like, go to bed, and he's got his cleats on. We all are those people. And if you're not playing, you're full of it, is what you are, guys. You know that brand new Cry Precision gear came in, and you put that shit on because you want to see what your ass look like with the new flexibility band put in, okay? So don't tell me that you're any freaking different. It's just awesome. My weird is cooler than yours. Nah, man.
Right.
Yeah, talk about it. Like if you're, you know, my brother's gay, and my wife's brother is in that. We're very familiar with it.
Yeah.
Again, I'm always like, I'm the asshole, right? They're like, well, you're just blah blah. No, man, I'm challenging. I want to know. Like, tell me, because we're evolving, and if you're standing on the fact that this is who you are, like, let's talk about it, because we shouldn't we don't want it in the closet. There's enough shit.
Absolutely. It's okay to talk. Like a couple years ago when I was flipping houses, my Jeep broke down at this gas station. Couldn't get it started. I was like, well, I was only like 2 miles away from the job site. So I'm getting ready to call my buddy. He was already there. He was going to come back and pick me up. Well, this cop pulls in, sees the hood up, and she comes over there, and she asked me, what's going on, whatever. And so it ended up being, she offered me a ride. I told her where I was going. She's offered me a ride. I was like, hell yeah. So I had to sit in the back, but it's okay. So I got back there and we're driving, and she had a pride flag kind of thing or something that said kind of like, hey, she was gay. And I'm very open with people. Like because it's coming from, my intention is good when I'm asking questions.
You're genuinely
curious, yeah. So I'm like, so did you grow up in South Carolina? She's like, yeah. I said, so when did you come out as being, I see your sticker there or whatever, when did you come out as being gay or whatever? She's like, oh, when I was an older teenager. And I said, how was that? Like, what kind of experience was that being in South Carolina, the Bible Belt, like how were your parents? And so we had this, it was only a 7-minute ride to my job site, but we had this conversation about that. And that's what I do in real life. Like it's okay to talk about stuff like that. Like, hey, it's fine. Like she was very open,
Yeah, I've never run into anybody that it's been like extreme left or right on the matter.
Yeah,
it's kind of like, I got caught staring at you, and then I'm like, hey, what's up? Like, I wasn't staring at you because like I'm judging you. I'm staring at you because I'm wondering what was going through your head when you put on your outfit this morning, and am I missing something? I genuinely want to know, like. Yeah. Am I missing something here? Because we take everything for granted these days. So I don't know. I wore pumps and shaved my legs senior year in high school when we could get away with dressing up as girls for Halloween. We couldn't get away. I don't think you could get it. I don't know how it would go over now. I don't know what would happen now.
Well, that's like I had 2 sisters. I didn't have a brother. I grew up. I'm the middle child. So when they wanted to play dress up, they used me as the doll. I was the doll, so they put makeup.
You're the ugliest girl on the block.
Absolutely. My mom's got pictures of when I'm like 6, 7 years old, wearing a dress, and they put makeup on me, and I was one of the girls for a day. Like, it's okay.
Belt buckle off of his pants and slams it on the table.
No, my dad was cool, man. He was like, my dad was really like, my parents were really open with their number one thing is, they were very strong Christians. If Jesus, they wanted to live like Jesus, like that was it. So they let kids be kids. They didn't, like, oh no, it's all this confusion. Yeah, it was like they didn't. I was 100% male boy. Like I went outside and I spent most of my time in the woods behind our house, and crawling around with a BB gun, and digging holes, digging in the dirt, trying to put leaves on me, trying to hide like a little sniper, and I was trying to shoot a squirrel. Okay, I was 100% boy, but I mean, I've always been okay with my feminine side. We all have that. We all have both chromosomes in us. It is like, how when you're an adult, like in the military, then you wear something, your buddies are like, oh, okay, and they make fun. You're like, yeah, I'm comfortable with my feminine side. Like, it's okay, I can be experience all different things and be okay and still.
We're talking about the Navy, right? So I'd sign up for the Navy, and they're like, hey, if you want to go across the equator, you're going to have to go through this initiation process where this grown man puts on a wig and a kilt and dresses like Zeus and smears Vaseline on their midsection and rubs your face in it after you come through like a hot dog, tray of fish eggs and crap. I mean, like,
that's funny.
Perspective is everything. So like,
oh sure,
and everybody's always like, oh, you joined the Navy, so obviously you're gay, and
right.
You're a pole smoker and all these things. It's like, I've just accepted it now. Yeah. I'm just gonna say, yes, I am.
Right?
Are you into it? Like,
yeah,
but then you gotta be careful. You never know, dude. You might end up having turned out one of your straight friends as a straight man. Those days are.
When we got to Okinawa, one of the initiations there was it was called getting jungle fucked. So they would the first couple weeks you're there, you're the FNG. So they're going to grab you so our barracks was 3 floors. And it was enclosed, right? So our doors open on the inside of the hallway, and then the windows, outside. But so in the middle of each floor was like the main room. I forget what they call it, like the party room.
Common room.
Yeah, the common room. Yeah. So there was like a couple board games here and there. There was like a phone on each level, where the guard shack could call up to that level. You couldn't. That was the only phone that could call to those levels. You couldn't receive outside calls from them. But anyway, so they would grab you in that room. So all these guys be in there, they're talking shit, they're playing poker, whatever, smoking, and so you walk in all innocent, like gonna watch them play poker, and then that's a setup.
They had it planned.
They're all gonna grab you, and what jungle fuck is they grab you, and they have enough guys to grab your arms and legs, and they got you face down, but you're not on the ground. They're holding you up and suspending you with your arms and legs. They spread your legs apart, and then you're clothed. They're clothed, but then they start a line and they run into you with their pelvis into your crotch, and so your ass and your balls are getting smashed, and it's like over and so you're bruised on the inside of your legs for like a week. Okay, like it hurts. Well, that's the hazing. So you're getting jungle fucked, by a bunch of guys.
Oh. Wow. Marine Corps Recruiting Command just called and just totally blacklisted. They're like, no wonder we have so many issues. We had, dude, the crazy shit. Like, okay, so in the military, right? What's your job? Not like your job of what you're doing, but your job is to protect the country, right? So like that's the idea. And then it's like, well, how do you deal working a normal job inside of that environment every day? And then I think as young men, and I'd really be curious to see how things happen on the female side of that equation, if they're as brutal as we are. But I remember hazing stuff on our ship. Like, it was like people were lined up to get hazed. And for me, I was like, wait, we're going across the equator? I'm like, man, I don't want to be a wog. I want my shell back. Like this, I want it hanging in my house. But I was like, I'm in weapons. I'm special, and I'm not gonna let some I'm not gonna grovel at senior chief's feet and rub my face on his. I was just really like turned off by that whole idea.
Yeah.
And then here we are. They're like, hey, we're gonna initiate you into the submarine community, and it's like, oh, what does that mean? And it's like, well, you got to get into the engine room and ring the red bell in the back, and you got to get back out of the engine room before the snipes catch you. And it was like, okay, well, you hit the bell, you turn around and nobody's around. I thought I'd make it out, and you 3 steps later, crack, and it's just full out birthing wars. I mean, like if you if you were into it, it was like so. And then that was how it was. Like you just get jumped in pretty much, right? That's what a jungle fuck is. Is that's your commands, jumping you in. And I'm the kid that in school, I'm asking these questions for survival rate. I wanted my survival rate to go way up. And so like I was always asking questions about like, yeah, so when this happens, like what's the best way to handle it? Do you just go with it? And they're like, I remember HM2, he had just come back from a sniper mission, and he was our RDC, and he was like, you don't participate. Real men don't participate in those games. We're too busy killing shit. And I don't know if he was serious.
Yeah.
But it stuck with me through my head. That was like, well, is this just distraction methods? And then soon later to find out that, when they fly in crab legs, steak, and the ice cream machines are working, we're getting extended. You're staying just a little bit longer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Anyways.
Well, so you got, so tell me again before we wrap up, what events do you got that you want to shout out? And of course, I'll put I'll put the link to your website and everything where people can find out all that info. What events you got coming up, and what do you want people to go to?
April 5th, 6th, and 7th in Alabama is the 6th annual VFA charity game. It's a Terminator-themed mill sim. We run missions starting at 1400 on Friday, and we run through Sunday. So if you're an early arrival, you'll be going on recon missions and starting the task org op-ord planning that will run you guys and your clans through or factions through the mission set for the weekend. Tickets are $100. We're 4 weeks out, so there's still plenty of time to jump on board. And what's great about our event is we really want you to see what it's like to get that experience of the military. So you can buy a barracks ticket, and you'll be in open bay barracks with your platoon. So you live together, fight together, you'll eat together if you buy a meal pass. VFA is manning the kitchen. All our volunteers are like, I'm so happy to volunteer. And I'm like, you have KP detail. You have KP detail. So we're going to be running the kitchen this year. Apple fritters are back for those that remember. The first year we did at Camp Liberty, apple fritters were the hit of the weekend. So Terminator themed. I'm not going to go into it. If you want to know more, check out veteransforairsoft.org. All of that information is up there. Tickets, again, like I said, are $100. Camping's free. And then on Memorial Day weekend, we've got the Jacksonville, the Jax Airsoft Fest. So Veterans for Airsoft is working with the Jacksonville Navy Museum, and we're taking over the pier to bring you an entire day dedicated to plugging airsoft, networking. We'll have tech talks. We'll have cool guy photos, so you'll be able to throw on a plate carrier and one of the cool new, airsoft replicas. And we'll have photography crews out there taking your photos, ship tours. I'm going to give the Freddie Lux torpedoman / gunner's mate thank me for my service tour. So I kind of give you guys a little bit more of what you got today on the podcast, which is, this is what I used to do in the Navy. No, I knew nothing about leadership of infantry troops, but here I am teaching kids at this amazing facility, Camp Liberty. So come out to the Jacksonville Airsoft Festival. Whether you live in Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, we're hoping that everybody's like, hey, let's come out and spend the weekend. Sunday fun day, stick around and play local airsoft at the local airsoft field, or come out to the beach with us and hang out. Family-friendly events. We don't necessarily always get the most quality of time, and this will give you guys an entire weekend dedicated to remembering what Memorial Day is about, giving back by supporting the USS Orlick, Jacksonville Navy Museum, and showing us that we're on the right track with our mission of connecting veterans to milsims. So there you have it.
Awesome, man. Dude, it's been a great talk with you, man. I appreciate you so much and what you're doing.
No, thank you, man. It's a good way to kick off the weekend. I'm hyped now.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I'm going to go take my kids for a run.
Get after it. Get after it, kids. All right. Well, thanks again, man. I appreciate you. Everyone watching and listening, go to veteransforairsoft.org. Check out all their stuff, and I'll have the links in this video.
Yeah, awesome. Appreciate you. Thank you guys for listening.